And when I landed in the marketing team, I said, okay, tell me what's our marketing plan? What do we have coming up? What are we doing for the next few months? And the answer was something like, well, I don't know, maybe next week we'll do something for National Ice Cream Day. I was like, is there nothing, there's no plan? And they're like, well, we kind of see what kind of comes, right? And so that's where we were a little bit. There wasn't that muscle built around, let's be strategic and planful around the things that we did. So the first thing we did was get the brand architecture kind of set, because it's another one of those things. You have these ideas in your head about what it is, but I'm a big believer in nothing is real until somebody writes it down on paper. Nothing is real or concrete until it's written down on paper. And so that was the first thing we did. As marketing leaders with my CMO, we did like a 3-day offsite, and we came back with some thoughts and ideas, and with the help of the rest of the marketing team and bringing this across the organization, talking to others in the group, we solidified what we were and aligned ourselves behind a positioning that was going to organize everything we did for the year. And the concept for us at the time was, and we had a great agency and made movement out of Boulder, Colorado, that helped us with some of this work too, was that when you were 16 years old and you got the keys to the car, you had your driver's license, that used to mean freedom for you. And somewhere along the lines between traffic and parking and car insurance and all that, that joy gets taken away from you. So what we want to do as an organization is bring back the joy of car culture, basically. And so that's what our plan is, right? We're going to talk about how much better life can be when we get back to that idea of freedom, right? That cars can bring you freedom and release you from these other things. So that's the organizing concept. Then we start to go into our individual sort of marketing functions, and performance marketing's off doing their thing, and we start to build an ethos around what's the calendar of events we want to do. What are the ways that we can look at both meaningful moments in time for the consumer, meaningful moments in time for Lyft, and meaningful moments on the calendar that we want to rise up on, or that we want to rise up as a marketing organization based on that brand strategy we have created, right? And so we start to plot out what are the moments that are really going to matter for us as an organization. As a marketer, I've always believed in kind of the roller coaster approach to marketing. Sometimes you're loud, sometimes you're not as loud, right? You're always on, but you're just sort of riding this up and down wave. So a company moment might be a really key business driver time of year for them. So for example, at Lyft, Halloween was always a really important weekend for the brand. Or for the company from a business standpoint. So we said, okay, from a marketing standpoint, we're going to put our muscle behind this. And so every company has these, right? A couple of times of the year, they're really important for them. Very traditionally for retail, the holiday season is really important, big selling time frame. So your marketing team needs to be really organized around what they're going to do around that time of year. You also then have consumer moments. So if you're doing your consumer research and developing your insights, you recognize that there's certain holidays or occasions or even events in the marketplace that are really important for your audience. And so you might want to do activations around that. One of the great examples of Nike doing this well was Brand Jordan and the All-Star Game. It's not a really great selling time of year because the NBA All-Star Game is in February and most people buy their basketball shoes at the beginning of basketball season. But Brand Jordan recognized that this was a really important time for the consumer and they were really engaged in this moment. So it has become a tradition for them to do really a lot of marketing and marketing execution around All-Star Game. Okay. And then there may be times of year on the calendar that based on your research on your consumer, you can sort of take in as your moments, basically. So one of those examples for us was actually at Lyft, was Valentine's Day. Okay, in terms of a business moment, right? Not one of the top 5, but certainly something that's important. But the consumer, obviously our lead consumer was young women. And so it's an important time for them, even though they are not specifically tuned into ride sharing or their transportation needs at that time. So we felt like, okay, this is something that a moment that would make sense with our consumer, and we can build executions that leverage our service and kind of tie our business in with something that matters to the consumer, right? If you're at a sports company like a Nike or an Adidas or those guys, you also have the sports calendar to kind of help you out as well. So there are all these different times you can look at. So you start to look at those different moments and say, what are the ones we want to raise up our energy around? And then the rest of the year, you're kind of, on a more even keel. You then need to decide what are the functions that are going to drive a lot of this work. At Stitch Fix, as I mentioned, content was going to be really important. When I was at Lyft, awareness was a big deal. We're trying to pull away from that pack. So billboards, TV, and we really anchored around billboards because of the transportation. We want people to be out and about, moving around their cities, and think about, hey, I might need a ride. So you start to build in those strategies and start to build your functional plans. From a creative standpoint, this is always such an interesting debate, and we don't have a creative director here, so it'd be really interesting to hear what they have to say. But we had already done a little bit of a cleanup on the brand, in terms of there were a couple too many colors, and there was a turquoise, and so we moved away from some of that, made it a little bit more streamlined, put energy around the pink that Lyft for now, but you don't know. But before that, there were a few different colors. And we started the process of actually moving away from the mustache. So what we found, it was one of the first things I did when I was there, in the meeting with the president and the CEO.
Get a wax job?
Yeah, it was, there was a lot of, it served its purpose, right? It got Lyft some awareness, but there were some negative associations with the mustache that we wanted to move away from. We had a lot of problems with the mustache in certain markets. So for example, in New York, you can't imagine like a Wall Street Goldman Sachs guy getting into a car with like a big mustache on the front, right? Like that's just not what you can envision, right? So it literally created barriers for people in certain markets. And so we had a long talk about we need to start to move away from the mustache because it's too alienating for some people, right? And there was there was a lot of stuff behind the mustache.
Who knew a furry mustache could be polarizing for a brand?